Yes, very simply, there's a brief introduction which is quite general. Then there are 5 chapters which are really introductions to things that you need to know if you want to go into this prayer beyond the apparent form of it. I mean, to give you an example, the prayer itself is a series of couplets, rhyming couplets, each of which, so this rhyme is not necessarily repeated. It might be, let's say, A, B, B, C, C, A. It may repeat or it may not. But each couplet, when you look at the final rhyme of the couplet, we started to discover an extraordinary pattern, which is that at the end letter, the value of it was 5. So the basic structure of this prayer is, let's say, 5 and 5. So each couplet, first line, 5. Second line, 5. Now that obviously gives a certain rhythm and pattern to it, but there are many meanings behind it. So 5 is an unusual number for many, many reasons. 5 is the only number that if you replicate it, you return to 1. You go through 10 and you come back to 1. So the centerpiece of this prayer in the book, we needed to explain something about the structure on one side, and we went into it. The more we went into it, the more there was that we were finding. So that appeared in a whole series of appendices on the abjad system, on how the structure actually works, on the structure of the prayer itself, which is divided into 5, but can also be seen as each section is divided into 2, which means that it's got 10 parts, so it again returns to 1. So these were all ways in which one could approach the way that the prayer itself is constructed.
There is a lot of technical material in the book on geometry, on letters, on numbers. Pablo, why do you think this is necessary? What made you put this in?
Well, we came to realize by rereading, getting back to Ibn Arabi's own writings on the letters, especially the chapter 2 in the Futuhat, on which we are currently working to keep going in this inspiring direction, that the numbers are for Ibn Arabi al-Miftah al-Awwal. So the way to understand the world as a Quran, so as a book of symbols to be deciphered, goes to this first instance of the symbolic languages, which are numbers themselves. So in a sense, this correlation of letters and language and numbers, is so present and is so conscious in every single expression of this prayer in particular, and in so many other Sufi texts, that we realize that there is a very important approach in letting consciousness open in what we call the art of contemplation. So it's not so much merely an analytical approach as much as an opening to a kind of music, where all this interaction of letters being numbers and numbers becoming language and becoming the structure of let's say, a musical poem of the text itself as a geometry. All this interaction of patterns provides an opening for the heart. Is thus what we mean by patterns of contemplation. The text is not just an analytical proposition to extract difference for an experience of differentiating meanings, but it is a poetical experience of resonance in many levels, and so we found out how important it seems to be in the conception of every phrase. So the structure of the text itself is suggested by the numbers appearing at the beginning of sentences. And to give you an example, Steve referred to the fact that in a couplet, 2 parts will end up in 5. But even in every sentence, in every one of the 2 sentences of the couplet, we have an inner rhyme being 5 and the final being 5. So this is a constant poetic resonance. It's rhythm, it's music. So it is through this book we learn for our own reading how to approach the text as music and as a contemplation of patterns, and so that's how it is.
That's marvelous. Would you like to add anything to that, Stephen?
Well, just to reiterate, I think the what's fascinating is we tend to think of musical composition and let's say composition in words, verbal composition, as quite different things. This is an area where they've actually come together, and to appreciate the music of the composition, the music of these words, it's not just a matter of hearing it recited. It's a matter of understanding these resonances, these 5/5 resonances, let's say, for as one example, or what does, why is this letter being suddenly given prominence? What is its significance? We actually started in many ways through an understanding of the letter Nun, on which I gave a talk some time ago.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning, that was a kind of opening to realizing that this was not only letters and numbers, it was also geometry, because the Nun is a semicircle, and there's an invisible Nun, another semicircle, which is waiting for us to discover it, actually, in many ways. And then we started to realize that understanding is inherent in the writings of many Sufi masters, and most particularly in Bosnavi, who goes into this in quite some way, not necessarily explicitly, but when he does, for example, Pablo referred to the texts that we looked at, and we started to find that the patterns in the preface, in the rhyming prose of the preface, in the khutbah, all of them were highly significant. The numerical value of the rhyme suddenly was revealing meanings that you would not necessarily know were there, but as soon as you started to look, they became apparent. And I think that kind of ongoing sense of discovery, it's like beginning to appreciate a symphony in the same way. The more you understand how it's been put together, the more appreciation you have of the profundity of the music.